Hi, welcome to Micro 171. Poland today accused the rest of the European Union of double standards and cheating and vowed to block future EU initiatives in a sensational revenge plot over its treatment at last week's Brussels summit. In an extraordinarily savage attack on the entire Euro project, Warsaw's foreign minister effectively accused the rest of the club of ganging up on his country and stabbing it in the back over the re-election of Donald Tusk. Witold Waszczykowski vowed Poland would not go down without a fight, saying it would start vetoing major projects backed by other EU countries in revenge, a tactic which could completely paralyze the bloc. The move shows how the cavernous rift which opened up between Warsaw and the other 27 member states over the appointment of the top eurocrat and support for a two-speed Europe has now developed into a full-blown diplomatic crisis. What began as a dispute over the EU Council chief's suitability for office has rapidly escalated into all-out verbal warfare, with Poland launching a series of increasingly fierce attacks on other members. And the relationship between its government and Brussels now looks to be smashed beyond repair, with ministers in Warsaw saying they will pursue a negative policy towards the EU in the future. The furious outburst was the latest nuclear fallout from a disastrous EU summit at the end of the last week, which was meant to be a show of unity post-Brexit but quickly descended into bitter acrimony. A meeting of the other 27 member states, which was meant to pave the way forward for the bloc without Britain, instead quickly became a vitriolic slanging match over the re-election of Mr. Tusk and a multi-speed Europe. Warsaw then refused to sign off on the Council's conclusions in protest, leading to a blazing row over dinner during which an apoplectic French President François Hollande threatened to cut off funding to the country. That in turn led Poland's PM Beata Szydło to convene an extraordinary press conference, at which she railed against EU leaders blackmailing her country and warned that there would be severe consequences for the rest of the bloc. And after the summit, Mr. Waszczykowski gave the first indications of what Warsaw has in mind by way of retribution, by hinting it will look to wield its veto wherever possible to paralyze the project on a massive scale. He fumed, "It turned out that EU policy is one of double standards and cheating. We must be conscious that at any moment we may be deceived. We must adapt our policies and adjust our behavior concerning the EU. Certainly, we must lower our level of confidence in the EU." He added that Warsaw will have to start following a negative policy towards Brussels and said this would include blocking EU plans for the future. Poland was outraged that the rest of the Council opted to re-elect Mr. Tusk on the basis of a majority vote, rather than requiring unanimity which would have handed it a veto. EU rules state that it is up to members to decide which voting system they want to use when picking their candidate for the powerful post, but Warsaw pointed out inconsistency in their methods. Member states insisted upon a unanimous ballot for the approval of Poland's hand-picked rival to Mr. Tusk, meaning his candidacy was subsequently rejected, but then switched to a majority vote for the main election itself. Mr. Waszczykowski raged, "Why was it decided that the candidacy of Eurodeputy Jacek Saryusz-Wolski had to be decided by a consensus vote? And that for Donald Tusk, it was going to be a simple majority vote?" The EU's deepening row with Poland has been bubbling under the surface for some time and centers over two main issues, but it is the re-election of Mr. Tusk that has injected such poison into the rhetoric. Jarosław Kaczyński, the all-powerful leader of Warsaw's ruling Law and Justice Party, is a furious opponent of his compatriot and has repeatedly tried to sink his EU career. The powerful politician blames Mr. Tusk for an air crash in 2010 which killed the then-President Lech Kaczyński, his twin brother, even though the eurocrat has been cleared of any involvement and the tragedy put down to pilot error. And Warsaw was also enraged in December when the Council chief, who is from a rival Conservative party, waded into its national politics with criticism of controversial reforms to reduce the independence of the judiciary. On top of that, Poland has also been alarmed by proposals to forge ahead with a two-speed Europe after Brexit, a move which was given the seal of approval by the bloc's four big beasts of France, Germany, Italy and Spain at their own private summit earlier this week. Warsaw, which is by far the biggest recipient of EU structural funds, fears that it would be left behind by such a plan, especially given that it has not yet adopted the euro.